Board Round, session number 23. The moment you step foot on campus as a medical student, you are gearing up for one of the biggest tests you'll ever have to take. USMLE Step 1 or COMLEX Level 1. The medical school headquarters and BoardVitals are going to help you prepare for your first board exam with questions, pearls of information, and guidance to make sure you have what it takes to score high and match into your specialty of choice. Welcome back to Board Rounds, the podcast dedicated to USMLE Step 1 and COMLEX Level 1. I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Gray, and as always, I am joined by a member of the BoardVitals team, Dr. Karen Shackelford. And this week, we have another great question to dive into for you. Karen, welcome back for some more board rounds. I'm hoping that I recover from my slump from last week and get a good answer this time.
I have no doubt you will. Okay. Today, we're going to have a neuro question. And so let's go with it. This is a patient who has a decreased level of consciousness, and you're testing the gag reflex. You note an elevation of the soft palate, and it's symmetric when you touch the left side, but when you touch the right side, there's no response. So which of the following is true relating to this patient's condition? A, the glossopharyngeal nerve carries the efferent fibers that mediate the gag reflex. B, the etiology of the absent reflex is a lesion of the right glossopharyngeal nerve. C, the cause of the patient's absent reflex is a lesion of the left vagus nerve. D, the reflex is mediated through the dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus. And E, both the glossopharyngeal nerve and the vagus nerve are damaged on the right side.
Oh.
I can repeat those. They're pretty long options.
Yeah, let's do one more repeat through.
Okay. All right. A, the glossopharyngeal nerve carries efferent fibers that mediate the gag reflex. B, the etiology of the absent reflex is a lesion of the right glossopharyngeal nerve. C, the cause of the patient's absent reflex is a lesion of the left vagus nerve. D, the reflex is mediated through the dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus. And E, both the glossopharyngeal nerve and the vagus nerve are damaged on the right side.
What was B again?
The etiology of the absent reflex is a lesion of the right glossopharyngeal nerve.
All right. So we have glossopharyngeal, the efferent branch, glossopharyngeal, lesion of the right glossopharyngeal lesion, or something wrong with the left vagus, dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus, and both dorsal motor nucleus and glossopharyngeal. Wow. Okay. So my wife, being a neurologist, will not be.
Oh no,
she'll not be happy if I. No.
You're asking for a lifeline.
I don't cheat on these. That'd be awesome. Okay. Can I phone a friend?
Yeah.
So this one for me, when you're talking nerves, I can't reason through any of this. It's either you know it or you don't. Right. Glossopharyngeal obviously is very tempting because it's the mouth and the throat, and glossopharyngeal obviously does a bunch of stuff in there. The vagus is interesting because while you don't think of the vagus in and around the mouth, at least I don't, I think there's some stuff that goes on there. And so there's just something about the vagus that's like, oh, it's going to be the vagus because glossopharyngeal just is too obvious of an answer. And so I'm between C or D. And the dorsal motor nucleus, the motor nucleus is the one that's calling to me because it's a movement thing. So I'm going to go with D.
Okay. So, and let me just say up front, I would not answer this correctly either. But the etiology, it's B. The etiology of the absent reflex is a lesion of the right glossopharyngeal. Okay. And I agree with you that it's sometimes pretty difficult to reason these out, especially when you have 90 seconds per question. So it's something some of these major reflex arcs are good to memorize. But anyway, the motor limb is mediated by the vagus nerve, as you said. Sensory limb, however, is mediated by the glossopharyngeal nerve. The vagus nerve also carries some sensory fibers through the recurrent laryngeal. So if the gag reflex is intact, the soft palate will rise, obviously, symmetrically, regardless of which side is touched. And if both the glossopharyngeal and the vagus are damaged on one side, there is no consensual response seen when touching the contralateral side, but the soft palate will rise unilaterally on the side that's intact. And there won't be any response whenever you are testing the affected side, the side of the lesion, if both nerves are damaged. Now, if the vagus nerve is the only nerve damaged and it's a single side damage, if there's a lesion on a single side on the vagus nerve, the soft palate rises and it pulls to the intact side when either side is tested. So, when we go over the pathways, I think it's something that it's worth remembering, but yeah, it's definitely difficult to reason through. If the glossopharyngeal is only damaged on a single side, there's not going to be a response on either side when you test the reflex on the affected side because you're not getting, you're not receiving the sensory impulse, right? So the palate, however, whenever you test the intact side, the palate would rise on both sides because the motor fibers of the vagus nerve are still intact. So that is basically, and I think, I thought a tough one.
Yeah, it's a very tough one.
In light of all that, the incorrect option was the glossopharyngeal nerve carries the efferent fibers that mediate the gag reflex. And it does, the afferent fibers of the glossopharyngeal nerve mediate the sensory component of the gag reflex. So that was wrong because of that. And you obviously knew that. C, the cause of the patient's reflex is a lesion of the left vagus nerve. So if the left vagus nerve, the motor nerve, was damaged on the left side, it would result in elevation of the soft palate on the right, no matter which side was tested. In other words, an ipsilateral lesion of the vagus nerve will result in elevation of the soft palate to the contralateral side, regardless of which side you were testing. And then I think option D was that the gag reflex is mediated through the dorsal motor nucleus of the vagus. And it is mediated through the nucleus ambiguous. And I think that's something you definitely forget as soon as you get out of medical, as soon as you pass your USMLE. Option E was, both the glossopharyngeal nerve and the vagus nerve are damaged in this patient on the right side. And if that were the case, there would be no response at all when testing the right side or the side of the lesion. And there would be no consensual response when testing the left side because obviously the motor portion is damaged on the side of the lesion. So there would be an asymmetric elevation of the soft palate on the contralateral side. Okay. Oh, and I noticed that the reference for this question was one of my old anatomy professors. That was interesting. Dr.
Great.
Haynes.
All right. Well, thanks, Dr. Haynes.
Yeah.
All right. So there you have it. Another great question for you. If you are enjoying this podcast, please let us know. You can go to Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Just shoot me an email, ryan@medicalschoolhq.net. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. If you are looking to maximize your step one, your level one prep, go to BoardVitals.com and check out the amazing Q banks that they have to offer that give you targeted questions, up-to-date board review questions, detailed explanations and rationales. And they ask a clinician feature. If you have a question about a question, an explanation, whatever it may be, you click a button, you can ask a doc in an email, and you'll get a response within 24 to 48 hours, I believe, is that turnaround. So again, go to BoardVitals.com, use the promo code BoardRounds to save 15% off on your purchase. Have a great week. We'll see you next time here on Board Rounds.
This is MedEd Media.